Russell Westbrook is a Sacramento King, and I'm seeing one question above anything else. Why? Well, I'll tell you exactly why, both on and off the court, right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all preseason and soon to be all regular season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And get ready for a double podcast day because later on tonight, I'll be headed out to the Golden One Center for the Sacramento Kings' third preseason game, taking on the LA Clippers tonight. And there's a lot of interest in that game because of Doug Christie's rotations, with Keegan Murray being out. So don't worry, I will have a podcast coming tonight after that game for our classic post-game recap. And at the end of this show, in the final segment of the show, I'll share a little bit of what specifically I'm looking for when I'm going to the game tonight. But Russell Westbrook, that's who we're here to talk about. Finally, it happened. We heard rumors and conversations and talk all summer long. Russell Westbrook to the Kings. It was the Kings. It was Russell Westbrook. It was this partnership, this agreement. It seemed like it was going to happen. And then there was all of this delay and the money was unsure because there's not a lot of money available. And how much could they give Russ? And they couldn't free up more money than they were able to this summer. They couldn't move Malik or Devin Carter or the Jonathan Kuminga situation. There was all this stuff in the way of the Kings and Russell Westbrook finally agreeing to a contract, coming together. And we finally got to a point where the Kuminga situation resolved itself. The Warriors and Kuminga were able to work out their deal, so the Kings fell out of that. And we got all the way to October 15th with the season starting less than a week from now. For the Kings, the season starts a week from tonight, but the NBA season begins less than a week from now. And here is Russell Westbrook, still not on a team, looking around going, yo, do I have to go international to play? Apparently he had an offer of around $10 million reportedly to go and play in China. So there's more money available for him to play internationally, but it sounds like he wasn't too keen on the idea of going and playing in China. There was always this interest in playing for the Sacramento Kings since the days even before training camp, or free agency opened. We were talking about this here on Locked On Kings earlier this summer. So it appears maybe the fact that nobody else was calling in the NBA and it was either China or take the money that the Kings are able to offer, it appears that ran its course. And ultimately, according to reports, Russell Westbrook and the Kings have agreed to a deal today. Matt, why? How in the world does Russell make sense for the Sacramento Kings? Russell Westbrook now makes the Sacramento Kings the third oldest team in the NBA. Why are the Kings prioritizing Westbrook? Why would the Kings spend the money and the roster spot to bring Russell Westbrook here? It doesn't make sense. It just feels like more of throwing together a hodgepodge roster of names that were especially big 5+ years ago and hoping it works here in Sacramento. I understand those of you who feel that way. Hopefully this podcast today will make you feel a little bit better, or at the very least give you a little more of an understanding of why Russell Westbrook was enticing for the Sacramento Kings. Because you have to understand, there is an off-court identity part of the conversation, and there's an on-court basketball player part of the conversation. And I'm telling you, and this might already make you wrinkle your nose in disgust, the off-court identity part is what is most important here. That's why we're going to start with that. And again, you might be going, your instant reaction might be, if we're talking about off the court being more important than on the court, then I already know this isn't a good signing. Hear me out. Because We've talked about this a million times since Scott Perry's first press conference after he was hired as the Kings general manager at the start of the offseason. This season, first and foremost, is about establishing a new identity and a new culture in Sacramento. You're probably sick and tired of hearing me say it, but I'm going to continue to say it because that is what the reality is here in Sacramento. That does not mean that wins and losses aren't important. That does not mean that what happens with the team on the floor doesn't matter. Quite the opposite. The Kings on the court need to be established. We need to see a difference between now and end of this season with how this team plays. We need to be able to know very clearly how the Sacramento Kings play basketball, who the Kings are as a basketball team. Because going into game 1 of the season in a week, we know what they want to be, but we still don't know who they truly are. We still don't. And we probably won't know for weeks or maybe even months into the season. They are identifying or developing this identity that Doug Christie and Scott Perry have come together and agreed, like, this is how we're going to play. We're going to play up tempo. We're going to be a defense first. We're going to be a physical team, a get in your face team, a take no nonsense team. And a lot of those traits I just said fit Russell Westbrook perfectly. Russ is exactly the type of player to establish this identity in Sacramento. He's not the best player to establish this identity, but he's exactly the type of player. There's a difference. One thing I want to address right off the bat, because I've seen it a lot, I've been seeing it a lot since Russ became a conversation, and it's not true. Russell Westbrook is not a cancer to the Kings. He's not a cancer to a locker room. It is not true. I have talked to many people in organizations, those Locked On hosts or other media members who have covered Russell Westbrook from most recently in Denver to all the stops that he has bounced around. Russell Westbrook is not a cancer. It is consistent. Everybody's told me, no, Russ does not come into a situation and make it toxic and make it horrible. Russell Westbrook is not going to cause the Sacramento Kings to revert back to the cancerous awfulness of last season that they went through, the toxicity. It's not going to be because of Russell Westbrook. It's not like he's coming in to rough anything up in that sense. That's not true. I don't believe that. I've never had any indication to believe that. I think that narrative or that reputation is false and it's silly. But I understand how people get there because who Russell Westbrook is, he's a jerk. He's an a-hole. He's a guy who's going to speak his mind. There is a very significant difference between being that and being toxic. Draymond Green, as much as we do not like Draymond here in Sacramento for obvious reasons, Draymond Green is not toxic. He's an a-hole. He's a jerk that has been perfect for the Warriors for their entire dynasty. How many times over the years have we talked about the Kings need a dog? The Kings need someone who will light a fire. The Kings need someone who will get in somebody's face. Cue Russell Westbrook's music. And Russ is not just going to come in here to stand up for his teammates and get in the faces of opponents if they try anything silly. When the Houston Rockets come into town and try and do their pushing and shoving Ime Udoka ways, or Draymond Green comes to town and tries to get in somebody's face. Yeah, Russ is going to be the guy to get involved in that to an extent, of course. Hopefully Dennis Schroeder will too. But Russell Westbrook is also going to be the guy in the practice facility to, I don't know if he'd physically do this, but for lack of a better term, grab somebody by the collar, pull them in and go, you need to lock the F in. You need to buy in. I need more from you because you're going through the motions. Lock in. Go 110% because that's who Russell Westbrook is. Russ demands 100% effort because he has always played with 100% effort. We'll get to the on-the-court stuff and how that 100% effort can lead to erratic, crazy, chaotic on-court moments and mistakes that are going to happen. 100%. There are going to be mistakes that Russell Westbrook makes when he suits up and plays for the Sacramento Kings. Of course. And there are concerns about fit and like like floor spacing stuff. All of that is true, and we will get to that. But the identity is what is most important. And Russell Westbrook, like Doug Christie, wants to punch first, not react to getting punched. Russ punches first. Russ will help set a standard here in Sacramento. Russ will hold his teammates to that standard that Doug Christie and Scott Perry are setting better than anybody else on this roster. He can do it way better than DeMar DeRozan, way better than Zach LaVine, way better than Domantas Sabonis. Russ is going to be the guy to hold people to that standard better. But he is also, in my opinion, like the perfect combo with DeMar. Not basketball-wise, but mentorship-wise, motivational-wise. DeMar DeRozan has already taught so many people in Sacramento about what it is to be a pro. DeMar DeRozan is a champion of mental health. He wrote a book about it, his life experiences. He's going to be a guy that's phenomenal for Neat Clifford or Keegan Murray or anybody to go to. And they already have gone through to work their way through the roller coaster of life in the NBA and expectations and pressures as an NBA player. DeMar is perfect for that. But DeMar DeRozan, while he can hold people accountable in his own way, DeMar DeRozan is not going to do what Russell Westbrook does. The Kings want to play with a fire. The Kings want to play with an intensity. The Kings want that fire and intensity to burn throughout all aspects of this organization with how they approach practice, how they approach film study, how they approach daily life as a Sacramento King. Russell Westbrook helps establish that and fits that. Russell Westbrook immediately becomes the best extension of Doug Christie in that locker room, on that practice floor, on the NBA floor that the Kings have. That is who Russell Westbrook is. That is what Russell Westbrook brings. And that is why Russell Westbrook has been on Scott Perry's radar since the beginning. Yes, there are basketball concerns, and we're going to get to those in just a second here. Will it work perfectly on the basketball floor? No, it won't. Is Russell Westbrook the difference between the Kings being a play-in team and a playoff team? No, he's not. But Russell Westbrook is the type of guy that can lay the foundation that the Kings can build upon in the years to come. Russell Westbrook is the guy to set the standard. So Neek, Keegan, Keon, Devin, all these young guys who are hopefully, many of them hopefully part of Scott Perry's future, they understand it. They learn it. It becomes part of who they are. It becomes the standard. It becomes the expectation that Russ can then pass the torch to those guys to where they can hold the newcomers, the new trade additions, the new rookies, new draft picks of the future. They can hold them to that standard. We talk a lot about Heat culture and how Heat culture has been able to surpass the constraints of time and carry year after year, decade after decade in Miami. It's because they have set a standard that guys like Udonis Haslem, who are there forever, held everybody to. Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, holds everybody to that standard in Miami. And that's why it's lasted as long as it has. Russell Westbrook is someone who can really, truly build that foundation here in Sacramento. That's why Scott Perry wants him here. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. No one wants to do that. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, okay? If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is there for you. It does all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much money as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Also helps you a lot with the many subscription services you may have, managing the ones that you want or don't want. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. And like I said at the top of the show, Locked On Kings is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is nearly here. It's right around the corner, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is get in the building and cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives the fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. You can go into Game Time right now and look at tickets for the Kings home opener next Friday against the Utah Jazz. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Look at those tickets, write down what the prices are. You're going to go back and look at those tickets a day or two, or even the day of the game, and a lot of those prices will be better. And you'll get your seats in minutes. There are no surprise fees. The price that you see when you select your seats, that is the price that you pay. They have zone deals that are an absolute game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25 on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA, all one word, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. So what about Russell Westbrook on the court? All right, this is where things get a little rougher. But again, there's a reason Russ is here. Russell Westbrook on the floor. First and foremost, the Sacramento Kings still need a backup point guard. Now they have it. We don't have to talk anymore about who's handling the backup point guard minutes. That was always a massive question mark. It's not a question anymore. Russell Westbrook is your backup point guard. Period. When Dennis Schroeder is out of the game, in theory, Russell Westbrook should be in it, unless someone else emerges as a capable ball handler. Russell Westbrook takes on that responsibility. You have your depth at the point guard position. Unlike with this Keegan Murray injury that the Kings are still scrambling to figure out what to do with. Now, knock on wood, in the event that anything happens to Dennis Schroeder, the Kings have another point guard on the roster, or will have. It's not official yet. He hasn't officially signed. He's not going to be there tonight in the game or anything. Now they have an option. Now they have another point guard. So they needed that. First and foremost, they needed that just from a depth standpoint. Russ, there's one thing we can count on from Russ every single time he steps on the floor. Russ will play hard. That's it. Russ is going to play hard, and he will both vocally lead and lead by example, because if you're not playing up to the standard, if you're not playing as hard as Russell Westbrook is, again, Russ playing that way might be erratic at times and cause some mistakes and some reasons for you to go, oh my God, and put your head in your hands and shake your head. There's going to be moments like that. Of course, there are going to be. That's who Russ has been almost his entire career. But Russ plays hard, and you'll be able to see who is not playing up to that standard. And you won't have to say anything about it, because Russ will already be saying it and doing it. Russ is going to play hard. He's going to attack, and he's going to lead. Here's how I look at this. And listen to me very, very closely on this, because I don't want you to, just stay with me here. I look at this Russell Westbrook addition to the Kings as a way better version of what JaVale McGee was supposed to be for the Kings a couple of seasons ago. JaVale McGee was brought to Sacramento because he had a championship pedigree. He'd been on championship teams. He'd been on playoff teams that have made major runs. He knew what it took to be a champion. JaVale McGee, first and foremost, was supposed to be an addition to the locker room. On the court, I think the Kings were hoping for a little bit more from JaVale McGee than what they got from him, and he ended up just being a guy that sat on the bench for the rest of the season. That is not who Russell Westbrook is supposed to be. Russell Westbrook is supposed to play a role on this team, basketball-wise. And Russell Westbrook will not move to the bench and just sit there unless either one, everything was a complete disaster, which I don't think is going to happen, or two, somebody stepped up, Neek Clifford, Devin Carter, somebody stepped up so well that the Kings could say, all right, we're ready to pass the torch a little bit now, Russ. And in the locker room, Russ is going to be able to do more for this team and establishing this culture than JaVale McGee was able to do. So again, I think Russell Westbrook is a better version of what JaVale McGee was supposed to be for the Kings a couple of years ago. Much better version. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Russ has a ton to give on the court still at this point in his career, even more to give off of it. And in terms of his role with the Kings, that should be very, very clearly defined, in my opinion. I don't know the specifics of it, but here's what I believe, or what I would believe Russell Westbrook's role is here in Sacramento. Backup point guard minutes. We're talking Russ playing like 15 minutes a night, maybe close to 20, maybe kind of, sort of. Not a six-man. Backup point guard minutes for Russell Westbrook. Russ is going to push the tempo. That's what he does. Even at his older age, he's going to be part of the Kings pushing the tempo. Russ is not coming to Sacramento to be a top scoring option. I would hope Russ understands that, and I hope the Kings would clearly communicate that. Now, they would love to get some scoring from Russ. If they could get 10 points a game or something, great. But Russ is not coming here and going, give me the ball. This is my team. I'm scoring. Get out of the way, DeMar, Zach, and everybody else. That's not who Russ is. And I think some people think that's who Russ is going to be. If he at any point acts that way, Doug Christie has to be quick with the hook to get him off. But I don't believe Russ is going to act that way because Russ is not dumb. Russ is not an idiot. He's never been at any point in his career. He knows where he's at in his career, and he knows what he's joining and why he's joining the Kings. He's not dumb. So we don't have to pretend that he's going to come in here and grab the basketball and bully everybody into having his way. It's not going to happen. But Russ will hold people to a standard. He's not a top scoring option. The three-point shooting is not good. It's concerning as we know it. And there are going to be causes for concern in terms of spacing and how it works on offense. 100% that the Kings have to figure out. And now they have one preseason game potentially with Russ, less than a week to figure that out. It might look ugly to start the season. It might not be great. But thankfully, when you're signing someone who's been in the league for now 18 seasons, you know who they are. They know who they are. And they have Russ has a very high basketball IQ. He does. And I think he'll be able to come in, and I'm not saying it's going to be a seamless fit right away, but if there's anybody I trust to be more ready to handle a very quick adjustment period and being thrown right out there, it's someone with 18 years of NBA experience, or this will be his 18th season of NBA experience. Defensively, too, not great. Do I expect Russell Westbrook to pick up 94 feet and be effective? Not really. He's never really been known as a great defender or anything like that. But I think he can give the effort and play with the intensity on the defensive end that Doug Christie is asking of him. The fit on offense, I'm concerned about. I'll have to see it. I have questions in that sense. But again, the whole point of this contest being the podcast being the why. Why is he here? I hope I've made that clear. This episode of Locked On Kings is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is so much fun because there's so many incredible ways to play, from building parlays, whether it's like 2 or 3 things, or just going insane with 5 or 6 things on an NFL Sunday, or trying player props, even following live lines during games that you're already watching. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or a nerd like me that loves diving headfirst into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, real quick, because we are going to have a full post-game episode tonight after Game 3 of the preseason. What am I looking for? Well, Doug Christie has told us a lot. Hey, don't pay attention to my rotations during preseason. Don't read too far into them. Well, sorry, Doug. I'm going to read very far into rotations tonight because Keegan Murray's gone. And we need to try and figure out, or we want to know, what works and what doesn't in place of Keegan Murray in his absence. I do not think we are going to get Maxime Reynaud starting at the 5 and Domantas Sabonis starting at the 4. Don't think we're going to get that. I have no idea. Maybe it's Dario Saric at the 4. Maybe it's Sabonis at the 4, Drew Eubanks at the 5. Or maybe the Kings go small like I think they probably should, at least initially, and try either Keon Ellis at the 2 and shift everybody down, or what I would love to see, Nick Clifford starting at the 3 or the 4, depending upon defensive matchups. At least that's what I would do short term. I have no idea if it would work or not. That's why I want to see it. But I do think we will get combos. Hopefully we will get looks of Reynaud and Sabonis on the floor together. I hope we will see Doug experiment with some things. I don't care if the Kings lose tonight. I really don't. All I care about is those rotational experiments, and we can see firsthand, hey, that worked. That looks pretty good. There's something there. Oh, that was a disaster. I hope the Kings never do that again. That was terrible. They should not do that. I hope we get a little better idea of what could be a good option and what absolutely isn't a good option. That is what I'm looking for tonight. In addition to that, of course, I mean, Zach LaVine has been on fire these first 2 preseason games. I would love to see that continue. I want to see if the Kings defense, not that I expected it to be great anyway, but if I just hope it just doesn't fall off a cliff with Keegan Murray not being out there. I do want to see in person a more engaged Dennis Schroeder. He was better in game 2 in Portland than he was in game 1 last week. Game 1 in Sacramento, I was not impressed really at all by Dennis Schroeder. I understand he might be tired, or it's hard to get up for preseason basketball after being the Eurobasket MVP only a month or so before that. But I want to see a little bit more from Dennis Schroeder tonight. And then just more of the identity. Show me the identity. Show me the identity. Of course, I'm going to be keeping an eye out, too, to see if Russell Westbrook is in the building at all. I have no idea if he's going to be. Haven't heard anything, but I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of an extra buzz around the arena because of the Russell Westbrook news. If you have any questions for me about what I think about the Russell Westbrook signing, like any explanations that you need on why, based off of what I shared, why the Sacramento Kings brought Russell Westbrook in, any concerns that you have, counter arguments to the things that I said, hey, let them fly. Hit me up at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. If you're going to the Golden One Center tonight for the Kings-Clippers preseason game, I'm at the top of section 105 as always, the media section. Come by, say hi. Would love to chat with you. And I look forward to seeing you later tonight after that Kings game to talk more about whatever happens. Hopefully we get some answers, and hopefully things look better tonight than they looked certainly the last time the Kings were in the Golden One Center. Appreciate you. Talk to you later. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.